For more than 5,000 years, it remained buried beneath layers of Mesopotamian dust, untouched by sunlight, untouched by history itself. Then, during a quiet excavation near the ruins of ancient Nippur, archaeologists uncovered a fractured clay tablet covered in symbols no one expected to find together. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Another broken Sumerian relic. Another forgotten fragment from humanity's oldest civilization. But when translators finally pieced together the text, several researchers reportedly refused to continue working on it after dark because the tablet did not describe a king, or a war, or even a god. It described a number. A single number feared so deeply by ancient priests that entire rituals were designed to avoid speaking it aloud beneath certain stars. 7 today, the number appears everywhere. 7 days in a week, 7 heavens, 7 gates, 7 sacred rivers, 7 sages, 7 seals. It hides inside religions, inside myths, inside architecture, inside human psychology itself. But according to this ancient Sumerian text, the number 7 was never meant to symbolize luck or spiritual perfection. It was a warning, and what the priests believed about it may completely change how we understand the ancient world, because buried inside the tablet was a terrifying claim that every 7th cycle, something returned, something the priests feared enough to seal inside forbidden chambers beneath their temples, and the deeper archaeologists investigated the mystery, the stranger the evidence became. The story begins in southern Iraq, in the scorched ruins of one of humanity's oldest sacred cities, Nippur, a city older than Babylon, older than the pyramids of Giza. A place the Sumerians believed stood at the center of communication between humanity and the gods. For centuries, wind moved through its shattered stone corridors like whispers from another age. Sand buried its temples. Floods erased its roads. Entire dynasties vanished into silence, yet beneath the ruins, thousands of clay tablets survived. Tiny fingerprints from a civilization that should not have known as much as it did. The Sumerians understood advanced astronomy. They mapped planetary movements. They calculated lunar cycles with astonishing precision. They created one of the first known systems of writing. But among all their surviving records, researchers noticed something unsettling. Again and again, the number 7 appeared beside symbols associated with the divine judgment and cosmic instability, not celebration. Fear. At first, scholars dismissed it as coincidence. Ancient civilizations often attach spiritual meaning to numbers. That alone was nothing unusual. But then, in the late 20th century, fragments from a damaged ceremonial tablet were translated together for the very first time. And suddenly, the pattern became impossible to ignore. The text describes 7 watchers descending from the heavens during specific celestial alignments, not gods, not humans, something in between. The tablet warned that priests were instructed to perform night rituals during the 7th moon, inside sealed chambers where no ordinary citizen was allowed to enter. Even stranger, the rituals were not acts of worship, they were acts of containment. The wording disturbed translators. One line, partially destroyed by time, appeared to read, "On the 7th turning, the gate weakens." No one knew what gate the text referred to. But the sentence became even more unsettling when compared to other Mesopotamian myths. Across Sumerian literature, gateways appear constantly, gates beneath the earth, gates among the stars, 7 gates of the underworld guarded by entities older than mankind. In the famous myth of Inanna, the goddess descends through 7 gates into the realm of the dead. Losing part of herself at each level, most historians viewed the story symbolically, but some researchers began asking a darker question. What if these gates were never metaphorical? What if the priests believed 7 represented a cycle, a cosmic opening, a recurring event tied to the heavens themselves? The deeper investigators looked, the stranger the connections became. Inside ancient ziggurats discovered repeated 7-layered construction patterns hidden beneath later renovations. 7 stairways, 7 chambers, 7 elevated platforms aligned with celestial bodies. Even Babylon's legendary Etamnonki Tower, believed by many to inspire the story of the Tower of Babel, contains symbolic references to 7 celestial levels. Why? Why did ancient Mesopotamian religions obsess over this number with such intensity? And why did some rituals specifically warn against observing the 7th phase of certain stars? The answer may lie in something even older than Sumer itself. Long before written history emerged, ancient humans looked upward in fear. The night sky ruled everything: harvests, floods, seasons, survival. But among the countless stars moving across the heavens, 7 celestial objects behaved differently. The sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, unlike fixed stars, these bodies wandered across the sky. To ancient observers, they were alive, watching, moving, predicting events on Earth. The Sumerians tracked these 7 wanderers obsessively. Priests climbed temple towers night after night, recording their movement with shocking precision, but according to certain interpretations, they believed one planetary alignment carried catastrophic consequences, an alignment connected to divine descent. Several fragmented tablets refer cryptically to the 7 who judge, entities associated with storms, disease, madness, and societal collapse. One damaged passage describes cities falling silent after the 7 cross the heavens. Another warns priests to remain underground during specific celestial convergences. Most mainstream historians interpret these passages symbolically, representing divine punishment or mythological storytelling. Yet alternative researchers argue something far stranger. They believe the Sumerians preserved memories of recurring cosmic disasters, comets, solar events, meteor impacts, planetary disturbances, events so devastating they became encoded into religious ritual. And if that sounds impossible, what researchers discovered next becomes even harder to explain. In 1872, British Museum curator George Smith shocked the academic world after translating a Mesopotamian flood story astonishingly similar to Noah's Ark. The tablet was thousands of years older than the Bible. Suddenly, ancient myths no longer looked like fantasy alone. They looked like distorted memories of real events. And among these surviving records, the number 7 appeared constantly during moments of destruction. 7 storms, 7 days of darkness, 7 judges, 7 walls collapsing, 7 years of famine. It was as if the Sumerians believed catastrophe itself moved in cycles of 7. Then came the discovery that truly unsettled researchers. Buried beneath one ruined temple foundation, archaeologists uncovered ritual rooms blackened by fire. Inside were strange objects deliberately sealed away: animal bones, burned oils, obsidian mirrors, clay figures with damaged faces, and on the walls, repeated symbols grouped in sets of 7. No one knows exactly what occurred inside those chambers, but records suggest access was restricted to elite priesthood members alone. Some believe these were purification rituals. Others believe they were apotropic ceremonies, rites intended to repel supernatural forces. But a controversial theory proposes something much darker: that the priests believed consciousness itself could be influenced during specific celestial periods connected to the number 7. This theory sounds absurd by modern standards, yet ancient Mesopotamian texts repeatedly describe altered states, prophetic visions, voices from the heavens, and encounters with luminous beings descending during ritual ceremonies. Priests consumed sacred substances, performed sleep deprivation rites, chanted repetitive incantations beneath planetary alignments, and according to certain translations, they feared opening communication with something beyond human understanding. One fragment refers to the 7 minds beyond the gate. Another warns, do not call their names beneath the black sky. No one knows what these passages truly meant, but the psychological effect of the text becomes undeniable when standing among the ruins themselves, especially at night. Modern visitors to ancient Mesopotamian sites often describe an eerie silence unlike anywhere else on Earth. The landscape feels abandoned by time itself. Broken statues stare across empty desert plains. Collapsed temples sink into darkness. Wind passes through shattered corridors once filled with chanting priests, and somewhere beneath those ruins, thousands of untranslated tablets still remain buried. That possibility terrifies some researchers more than the texts already discovered, because every new translation continues revealing the same unsettling pattern. Humanity may know only fragments of what the Sumerians believed, and those fragments already challenge everything. For decades, historians portrayed ancient civilizations as primitive societies slowly discovering science and religion, but the Sumerians appeared suddenly with advanced mathematics, astronomy, legal systems, architecture, and written language already astonishingly developed. Almost as if knowledge arrived all at once. Even today, scholars debate how such a sophisticated civilization emerged so rapidly. Ancient astronaut theorists claim the answer lies with the Anunnaki, mysterious beings described in Mesopotamian mythology. According to fringe interpretations, the Anunnaki were not symbolic gods, but visitors, teachers, manipulators, perhaps even creators. Mainstream archaeology strongly rejects these conclusions, but the myths themselves remain deeply strange. The Anunnaki descended from the heavens, they shaped humanity from clay, they ruled before the Great Flood, and in several accounts, they are connected directly to sacred numerical systems centered around 7. 7 divine decrees, 7 celestial judges, 7 sacred powers. Coincidence, or remnants of a belief system modern civilization no longer understands? The mystery deepens further when comparing Sumerian traditions with later religions. The Book of Revelation speaks of 7 seals. Ancient Judaism describes 7 heavens. Islam circles the Kaaba 7 times. Hindu tradition references 7 sages. Christianity preserves 7 trumpets and 7 spirits before God. Why did civilizations separated by geography and time preserve the same numerical obsession? Some psychologists argue 7 simply resonates with human cognition. Others believe the pattern spread culturally across civilizations. But alternative historians ask a more disturbing question. What if the number survived because the original fear survived with it? What if ancient priests encoded warnings into myth itself? Warnings disguised as religion. Warnings carried across thousands of years, and perhaps the most chilling discovery came from a partially translated ceremonial prayer recovered near Ur. Unlike royal inscriptions or mythological epics, this text read almost like instructions. It described a sequence performed during the 7th shadow. The priests extinguished all flames except one. Doors were sealed, names were forbidden from being spoken. Then came a line that researchers still debate today. For they listen when the 7th light disappears. No one agrees on its meaning. Some believe it references eclipses. Others believe it describes planetary conjunctions. But whatever the interpretation, the atmosphere surrounding the text is unmistakable. Fear, pure fear, not reverence, not worship, fear of contact. And that changes everything, because throughout history, religions usually honor divine beings. The Sumerian priests, however, often behaved like guardians, standing between humanity and something dangerous, something cyclical, something connected to the heavens. Then archaeologists noticed another impossible detail. Many temple complexes were deliberately rebuilt over older buried foundations, rather than destroyed entirely layer after layer. Civilization upon civilization, almost as if ancient people wanted certain structures hidden, but never completely erased. Ground-penetrating surveys beneath parts of Mesopotamia have revealed unexplored chambers still sealed underground. Some remain inaccessible due to political instability and flooding. Others have never been excavated at all. Which raises an uncomfortable possibility. What if the most important tablets have never been found? What if the surviving texts are merely fragments of a much larger system of forbidden knowledge? And if so, why was that knowledge hidden? The answer may lie in humanity's oldest fear, that we are not alone, not in the universe, not in history, and perhaps not even in our own origins. Ancient cultures across the world independently describe beings descending from the sky bringing knowledge, destruction, and warnings. The similarities are difficult to ignore. Mesoamerican gods, Egyptian sky beings, biblical watchers, Hindu devas. Again and again, the heavens open and humanity changes afterward. Some scholars dismiss these patterns as mythological coincidence born from shared human psychology, but others believe myths preserve distorted memories of forgotten encounters. And if the Sumerians truly feared recurring celestial cycles connected to 7, perhaps they believed history itself moved in repeating patterns. Civilizations rise, civilizations fall, knowledge disappears, then returns again. Like a wheel turning endlessly through time, that idea becomes disturbingly relevant today, because modern scientists also study repeating cosmic cycles, solar maximums, geomagnetic reversals, asteroid impact probabilities, mass extinction patterns. Humanity still watches the sky searching for danger, just like the ancient priests once did from the tops of their ziggurats beneath the Mesopotamian stars. Maybe that is the real reason the number 7 survived, not because it represented luck, but because it represented recurrence, a reminder that certain events always return, and perhaps the priests understood something terrifying about those cycles. Something they believed future generations needed to remember, even if only through fragmented myths and sacred symbols. As night fell over the ruins of Nippur thousands of years ago, temple fires would have flickered against massive stone walls, while priests watched the heavens in silence, waiting, counting, tracking movements invisible to ordinary people, perhaps fearing a moment they believed would come again, the 7th turning. The 7th gate, the 7th alignment, whatever they expected, they feared it enough to carve warnings into clay, meant to survive millennia. And somehow, those warnings did survive across floods, wars, empires, deserts, time itself. Now the tablets are speaking again, but the truth behind them remains buried beneath layers of myth, damaged translation, and forgotten history. Maybe the priests misunderstood natural events and transformed them into religion. Or maybe the number 7 became sacred through astronomical observation alone, or maybe hidden beneath the oldest civilization on Earth lies evidence of a belief so disturbing it was never meant to fully resurface. A belief that humanity exists inside cycles we do not control, cycles tied to the sky. Cycles ancient civilizations desperately tried to understand before they vanished. And perhaps the strangest part of all is that after thousands of years of scientific advancement, we are still looking upward for answers just like they were.